Hey, Dairy Hour listeners, if you're enjoying this show, leaving a review is the best way to help us grow and reach more people. Plus, I've got a little thank you for you. Snap a screenshot of your review, message it to me at DairyGalVal, and I will be sure to send some fun Dairy Hour stickers your way. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and I cannot wait to mail you some swag. As a busy mom and dairy farmer, I'm always looking for ways to support my family's health as well as my own, and I absolutely love Wonder Cow Colostrum. It's packed with essential nutrients, great for supporting gut health, boosts immunity, and promotes overall wellness. Whether it's for me, my kids, or anyone looking to stay strong and healthy, Wonder Cow is my go-to daily supplement. I have been taking it for a year now, and it is irreplaceable in my daily routine. If you want to experience the amazing benefits of colostrum too, you can use my special code, DairyGalVal, at checkout for a discount. Give Wonder Cow a try, and you will definitely feel the difference. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. I am your host, Val Lavigne, and today I am joined by the one and only Dr. Katie Brown. Katie, how are you today?
Hi, Val. Thank you for the invitation. I'm great and really looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. I feel like I always get to chat with you, but it's always we're always so busy at meetings that we're at that we never get to sit down and really have a great conversation. So I'm looking forward to that. And I've heard that you have some wonderful stories to tell. So I'm very excited.
All right.
So if you want to start off by telling those of you that don't know who you are, give us a little bit about you.
Sure. Katie Brown. I'm a registered dietitian. I'll share that I've dedicated my career to improving health fueled by food that I know can transform lives for the better. I live with my husband and our Labrador Olive in a little rural community town called Peculiar. It's in Missouri, south of Kansas City. And we have 3 grown kids who also live in the area. And we're very grateful for that because we spend a lot of time with them. Career-wise, I'm currently the president of National Dairy Council. And I've been with NDC for about 8 years, but I'm about a year and a half into my current role as president of NDC. And before that, I've had a career of many different roles, starting as a dietitian in a hospital to work.
We can get into all that in a little bit. Yeah, definitely. I have mostly gotten to know you through your role at National Dairy Council, which has been fantastic. And, just that idea of you going into things with the idea that food is health is so important. And especially when it comes to dairy. No surprise here. We're very pro dairy on this podcast. I mean, if you couldn't tell by the name, in my experience, I've heard Katie speak multiple different times, and just the passion that she has behind nutrition and people feeling their best and doing their best it's contagious. Katie has an absolutely contagious personality when it comes to presenting and chatting, and I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast, just because you're one of those people you chat with and you're just like, yes, this is amazing.
So, thank you so much. Thank you for that.
And it's very timely also because we're in this era of, food is being looked at as more of a fuel and almost like a medicine type thing, and that's like it's a whole new world basically going on here. And that's really exciting to see. And it's even more exciting that dairy is getting to be a part of that conversation as well. So because dairy, of course, is, an excellent powerhouse, but more about that later. So Katie, I want to hear about you. Where did you grow up? What was life like for you as a kid?
Very good. Well, I was born in Clinton, Iowa, which is on the eastern edge of the state. It's right on the Mississippi River. And my family lived there until I was 14. And then we moved to Lake of the Ozarks. Maybe some of your listeners are familiar with the Ozarks. That's where I went to high school. So a lot of my formative years were there. But I also always feel a kinship when I meet someone from Iowa. There's just always something seems to be very nice about people from Iowa. But I think a lot of, who I am came from the influence of my parents in our growing up years, specifically things like, a can-do attitude and entrepreneurial spirit, and also, health and wellness.
And what did your parents do for a living? What was it about them that brought about that experience and, that
formulation of you growing up?
My dad was always a business owner. In Clinton, he owned a women's and children's clothing store. And my sister and I, we loved spending time there. We would pretend we were, mannequins in the front display. And we liked to explore the back room where the clothes were and getting ready to be tagged. And we liked sneaking up to my dad's office and pretending like we were business people. But he also cared a lot about the community. Being on a river town, Clinton was often at risk for flooding. And so I remember my dad many times with other men in the community bagging, doing sandbags and preparing for heavy rains and things like that. He also started the first farmers market in our community. And in fact, I have a watercolor painting of it just hanging up right over here from that. And there was, special memories from that as well. And he was always a fitness kind of person. We always had a garden growing up. So I have kind of special memories of that. He was active. He was active as an athlete in high school and was recruited to play football in college. And, just was always an active person. So that was part of our lifestyle as well. So I think a lot of those things came from my upbringing and that interest in wellness and taking care of others.
Yeah. And I think that relates to even growing up on a farm a little bit, like, playing and being a part of the business. And that's not an experience that a lot of children get to have. And that's one experience that I'm really excited about for my kids, not only growing up on the farm, but with the food truck, being able to help with that and do different things. It is just so cool to see them grow and, blossom in these different roles and helping out the different things that they learn to do or that they know just from watching and being a part of it. If I was the type that would get up in the morning, go off to work all day, they'd go to a daycare wherever, and then come back and, that's it. It's just sad that that some kids don't get that like hands-on experience, which I get that it's obviously not something that everyone can do, but it's just one of those favorite things that I remember as a kid is just being a part of the farm, being a part of what's going on. And, I definitely think that that's probably helped your people skills as well. And just that genuine caring for people and how people are, because as a good store owner, one would think that you obviously want to have very good customer service, because if you don't, then customers don't tend to come back. But just being as they say, a people person. And that's definitely a skill that you can be born with, but it's best, I feel, fine-tuned by, getting that experience and seeing it in action and getting that practice. So that explains a lot. And I mean that in a very good way. So then you up and moved to the Ozarks, and what kind of things happened there for you?
Yeah. My parents started a different business in the Ozarks, which was they owned a little sandwich shop and ice cream shop. So it was my first probably connection to dairy from that. And so, I worked there just like all kids did in the Ozarks, in a touristy area. We all worked at our family's businesses, whether that was a resort or a restaurant or something. But many of us also had other jobs in addition to that. So not only was I working in my parents' place, but in the evenings I would work in restaurants. I was a very good busser, bus tables. I've washed plenty of dishes, hostessing, waitressing. I mean, kind of you name it. When you live in a touristy area like that, you kind of earn the ranks and go up the ranks of lots of different customer service. Again, it was really that customer service kind of a field that we all grew up in. So I think, again, to your point, there is a lot of that, how to interact with people that came through those experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a very different twist to go from owning a clothing shop to then sandwiches and ice cream. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can't go wrong with ice cream. So that's fine. But it's just funny how, going back and seeing that change. What are some of the other things you were involved in besides working as a kid? Were you involved in sports? Did you have different activities that you did? What were some of the things that shaped you there?
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of school activities. I played volleyball. I was on pom-pom squad. I was in journalism and yearbook and drama club, a lot of those different interests. I think, I still have that curiosity, a natural curiosity to try different things. And so, those activities probably represent some of that, as well as probably some other choices in my life. But it is that natural curiosity that, I was just willing to try a bunch of different things. Probably a lot of your listeners do as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm one of those people that I also have a really hard time saying no. So that's also, that's a whole different story. But it opens up so many different doors and opportunities for me because I'm like, well, it doesn't sound that bad. I'll try everything once. Like, might as well, let's go. So at what point, did you realize, hey, I think I want to go into a career of helping people?
When I started college, so I was first generation college graduate. So I didn't have a lot of direction from my parents on that front. In fact, it was one of my best friends from high school. We went to college together. There was no parents involved. We just loaded up her little blue Ford Fiesta and went to Springfield, Missouri, to Missouri State, and moved into the dorm. And I didn't know what I wanted to be. Again, it's like that curiosity. I took classes that weren't probably not a very efficient route to getting to graduation and to a career. Yeah, I did take classes in journalism, geology, psychology, sociology, just a variety of things. And it was interesting and fun and good learning. But by the middle, almost to the end of my second year, I'm like, I really probably need to have a plan forward here.
You should figure this out instead of just spending all the money and not getting an actual plan together.
So I ended up switching schools, actually, where my sister was attending a different college in a different part of the state. And so I moved there. And that's when I discovered that dietitian is a job. I didn't even know it existed. So I fell in love with, you can make a career out of helping people be healthy through food. And it was like, all excitement on that. And I could tell you, even to today, I love the profession. There's always something new to learn. I mean, it was the best career choice for me. And I loved it. And I think a lot of that had to do with my professional mentor, my undergrad professor, who really has become a lifelong mentor and friend, and still an important person in my life today.
Awesome. And that's so great that you were able to identify that mentor and look up to them and use them for guidance because, I think a good mentor in life goes a long way. So that's really, really good that you were able to identify one fairly early and stick with your mentor for the long haul, which is amazing. So you went for your bachelor's degree, I'm guessing. And then where did you go from there?
Right after graduation, I got married. And then right after that, I started grad school. To be a dietitian, you have to do an internship. So it was 9 months of that. Plus, I did a combined master's degree. So that was two more years of school. So I started right into that at the University of Kansas, a medical center. So lots of experience in an urban, very busy hospital. So much learning there. I mean, the coursework was rigorous, physiology, biochemistry, pathophysiology, all that stuff. But doing the clinical work and working with patients and really seeing the high standard of care that's expected at the University of Kansas Medical Center was transformational for me. I mean, I learned about high quality care, but also like navigating the medical system and what to expect. I mean, I learned there how to advocate for a patient, for myself. I've used that with my children, with my elderly parents. And there was a very, very good experience in that clinical time in those 2 years. Spent fondly in the halls of University of Kansas Medical Center.
So then you finally make it to graduation. And where did you go from there?
Yeah, I loved hospital so much that my first job was as a clinical dietitian in a hospital, different hospital, another big inner city hospital in Kansas City, and had lots of different responsibilities. And I really did enjoy that. But interestingly, a couple years after that, my major professor from undergrad, Mary Ann, called me up and said, would you be interested in coming back to the university and teaching in the dietetics program? And my passions are nutrition and education, and just the opportunity to teach was very exciting to me. I also just had my first child. And so, the idea of a teacher schedule with nice breaks and summers off, that was also very appealing. So I jumped at the chance, and I was there for 6 or 7 years.
Awesome. And I can definitely see those teacher qualities about you now that you're saying that. I'm like, yes, this definitely tracks. Okay. So what are some of your things that you were doing as far as just when you were in the hospital working? What for those that don't necessarily know what a dietitian's role is in a hospital, what kind of things were you doing on the day to day?
Yeah, there's dietitians that cover every aspect of healthcare. Whatever disease or reason you're in a hospital, you probably will have had a screening from a dietitian or someone in the system. And then, if there's a referral or a need to see a dietitian. So we would often counsel people, after they had major cardiac events, stroke or heart attack, or I worked for a bit in oncology with people dealing with cancer and cancer support groups, kind of you name it, even eating disorders. I mean, you name it, and you probably will see it in a clinical setting.
Okay. And so then the move to being a teacher for you, it was a really great schedule for just having your first baby. And, what else was it that was drawing you back to being a teacher when the opportunity arose?
I mean, I think it is that passion, it is that education and the nutrition combined. I just love that so much. In fact, while I was at the university, I started my doctorate degree in education. So I got that third degree in education just to make sure I was at the top of my game and doing the very best I could in that educational background. So that was fun. And I was there, I think I said 6 or 7 years. And it was great, but there was a time to move on from that. I have to say, and one of the challenges, and you can probably relate to this as a business owner too, at a university, whatever level you're at, with assistant professor or associate professor or full professor, like you're at a same pay grade. And so I knew I was working hard to make the best lectures and show up and, do the best I could. But somebody at the same level could totally phone it in. And, we were being paid the same. And I was like, I don't really like to earn as much as I am working. If I had a chance to earn more because I'm working more, I'm in for that. And so my mentor, Marianne, she said, let's leave the university. Let's start a consulting company. So again, my curiosity and, that sounds fun. Let's go do that. So we did. We each contributed $1,500. We started an LLC and off we went with a nutrition consulting company.
And how, what did your husband think leaving? You were leaving this, while it wasn't maybe the best pay in the world, but it was at least a consistent paycheck. And then you're like, I think I'm going to just jump into entrepreneurship.
Yes.
How did that go over?
Well, I'm a pretty good pitch. I can pitch an idea pretty well. So he got on board. I mean, we knew it would be it would be chancy, right? It would be chancy. But I always knew I could fall back on something. I could go back to a hospital or, I could find another RD job. So it wasn't that big of a risk. So we did it. And again, as a business owner, you can relate when you start a company or when you run a company, you don't say no to any business that comes your way. Just like you said earlier, I mean, we took every job that came our way, honestly, we had any experience or not. We said, yes, we can do that. And we figured it out. So we did a lot of long-term care consulting. We did a lot of menu writing and menu analysis. Probably the funnest part was we picked up some work with Blue Cross and Blue Shield to do worksite wellness programs. So we developed nutrition programs. We went into businesses and we either delivered them or we hired other RDs to do them. And that was just so much fun. It was a blast. We really enjoyed that. But, you're the HR, you're the tech person, you're the fill-in. If someone's not able to make it, you're all of it.
Yes. I know that role pretty well from being a farmer. If someone doesn't show up, if something doesn't go right, guess what? You just do it and suck it up, Buttercup, and get it done.
Yeah, jump right in. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. So you're consulting and doing the things. And then how did everything progress from there?
At one point, I got a note in email from our local dietetic association, and it was from the national organization, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and they were looking for RDs to go into schools as coaches, RD coaches. And they wanted to do a kind of a novel program. One hadn't really existed like that, to go into schools working with kids on healthy eating and also physical activity. So in the classroom, in the cafeteria, in PE class, in health class, and work with the kids, but also try and change the wellness environment of schools. So I was hired to do that. And then I got a team of other RDs in the area, and we developed a program, and we did some initial evaluation of it. Seemed like there was some promise to what we were doing. And so they funded an expansion of the program. We did more schools in inner city KC. We did some schools in Iowa. We did some schools in California. And interestingly, we had a chance to take that program to the White House.
Cool.
We shared it with Mrs. Obama's senior policy advisors when she was just launching the Let's Move campaign. And so it was just such a special time, and we did such great work. We felt very committed to what we were doing, but the Academy kept growing my consulting. They kept asking for more and more of my time until I was really full-time doing all Academy work. And then they said they would create a staff position for me. And so with that opportunity, I left the company. Marianne bought out my part of the company, and then I became full-time at the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I was there for a decade, leading education programs. There was a national program called Kids Eat Right. And we also launched a national program called The Future of Food, which is really about sustainable nutrition and that connection between agriculture, nutrition, and health. And by the way, both of those national initiatives were funded by National Dairy Council.
So then they come to play. See, they figured their way out into that story somehow, right? So
well, the president of National Dairy Council at the time, Jean Regalie Carr, was serving in a leadership capacity also at the Academy Foundation. She was the chair. So I got to know her very well. And many of the ideas that we wanted to do at the Academy, I would pitch to Jean. And so they funded a lot of our work. And so I had a very good relationship with her, and really got to understand a little bit more about NDC and what it was all about. So super supportive of the profession and what we're trying to do with education. And of course, dairy was always part of that.
Definitely. And I just love the evolution of your story and how it just keeps getting closer and closer to your role now, and it just keeps rolling, and it's really cool. And I love the fact that you were just like curious about different things. So you were like, sure, we can go do this. This looks good. Like, we can move over here. Keep this story rolling. So you're working at the Academy, and now NDC comes into play.
Yep. My last stint at the Academy was doing strategic planning. So, NDC is over 100 years old. It was founded in 1915, but the Academy was almost the same age. It was founded in 1917. So we were coming up on the 100-year anniversary of the association. And so they wanted to do a look back at the last 100 years and a look forward to the next 100 years. And so I raised my hand. Can I be the staff person to lead this effort? And so they said yes. And we got a really good consultant to help. But I learned so much from that experience. It was a couple of years. And the first ask was to go to the board of directors and ask for $1 million to help us in a process in order to set the next direction. It was a new vision and mission and strategic plan. So it was a lot of work. But that was also so much learning and great experience on that. But kind of towards the end of that process, National Dairy Council, Jean, asked me if I would come join the team over at NDC. And help lead some of the work that we were doing in sustainable nutrition and some of those efforts. I obviously knew about NDC. I knew it was a really credible, science-based. I knew that they had a very extensive dietitian network. So all that was very appealing. But I can tell you, Val, what I didn't know, my hesitation was, I didn't know what it would be like working for dairy farmers, right? We're paid by dairy checkoff. The farmers are our boss. I hadn't really spent much time with dairy farmers. And so
I hear they're pretty sketchy.
Before I did meet a dairy farmer. My brother-in-law is a veterinarian here in Missouri, and I asked him if he could introduce me to a dairy farmer. So I spent some time on a farm with a farmer and his family. I milked a cow. I drank milk, I had some time with around their dinner table. And, after that, gosh, Val, it was so easy to say yes. Just the best people. And and now that I've been there 8 years, I've been to many farms. I've met many dairy farmers, and it still is such an honor to work on behalf of dairy farmers. You're literally feeding the world. So I couldn't think of a better boss.
Well, we appreciate that. I'll speak on behalf of all dairy farmers, and we appreciate you and all of the really great work that you're doing. So why don't you chat a little bit about the different things that you do, that you started doing with National Dairy Council and how that's evolved over the years?
Well, I started leading nutrition affairs, which is the education and outreach arm of the dairy community. So we do health professional and scientific partnerships. So with the groups like the American Academy of Pediatrics or Mayo Clinic, for example, or American Society for Nutrition. Our team is credentialed health professionals, nutrition scientists. And so, we're peers among others in these spaces. And so it's very helpful to have that investment of that credentialed staff to work side by side and in collaboration with some of these authoritative organizations. These are the people that, consumers trust and turn to for eating guidance. And so the guidance they give about dairy and their perceptions about dairy really make a difference. So that was what I started out with. My responsibilities grew a little bit into scientific affairs or regulatory affairs, but more in that, education and outreach space. And then about a year and a half ago, our CEO, Barb O'Brien, promoted me to president of NDC, and that was such an honor.
A very well-deserved honor. And actually, if those of you that are listening, if you're fairly new, you can go back 10-ish episodes and listen to the episode with Barb O'Brien on it. So little shout out to that episode. But it has been really awesome to see the great changes that you've made and just propelling dairy into the spotlight, because it's our time to shine, and all the research coming out about dairy and the really great things that it does for you it's a wonderful time to be in dairy, and it's definitely having its moment. And us as dairy farmers obviously can't be doing all of the things all at once. So it's amazing having people like you and like Barb working for us to help make sure that we are in the spotlight, that research is being done, that research is being promoted out into the world. Because you could do all the research you want, but if people don't know about the research, it doesn't obviously help anything. So I guess, there's so many different things about dairy. What is one of the big parts about dairy that just really gets you excited? Maybe some new research, maybe some, new thing that's coming on. What is something that really gets you excited about dairy and the future?
Yeah, well, let me just share a little bit of backstory on the NDC president role. It didn't really come with a job description, and so I did spend some time thinking about what do the farmers need from a role like that. There aren't a lot of positions like that in the dairy community. So I did spend a lot of time thinking, what's the best use of my talent on behalf of the farmers? And then also, what do I really love to do? What do I think I'm good at? And so I spent some, long walk times, and I would text myself some ideas, and then I came back and I wrote it all up and I sent it to Barb and we talked it through. And it was partially, continuing to set a visionary direction for the team, but also having a more externally facing spokesperson representing the dairy science, like you're saying, in a bigger way. And so that's what, my role has evolved to being. The good news about that is I can take the exciting part of what's great in dairy today and take that to a broader audience. So, one of the things that we're very excited about is that we did some research to understand what are the topics that are top of mind for consumers today, and then where's the dairy opportunity in that. And so what rose to the top were things like that prenatal, or early moms, early parenting space, kids, young kids, and then also for adults in that healthy heart, healthy weight, digestive health, and the good thing for us is that, people are embracing a food as medicine, a food first approach, and they're looking to foods that will help them supercharge their gut health, foods that will help them achieve and maintain a desired body composition, and foods that will help them stay strong and energized throughout the day. So we have great science. I mean, these are the best platforms we could stand on to share the dairy science and how more dairy consumption can help you achieve those wellness benefits. So we're going out in big ways with that science. We've been working with pediatricians. We've been in clinics and offices and doing lots of education with healthcare professionals in that space, elevating some of the awareness of how dairy foods really contribute brains, bones, and bodies. That's how we talk about it. So that's been great. We've also created 2 keynote presentations that I've been doing on women's health in these wellness territories that really are top of mind for women today. And other parts of the company are doing innovation, product innovation, and how we can bring this awareness of the opportunity. It's more than $150 billion marketplace opportunity for the dairy community in these wellness territories. So the future is bright. We're saying, there's a dairy renaissance right now, and health and wellness is leading the way for sure.
I love it. Yes. And it's hard not to be excited just as, one of the board members that gets to see some of the things going on and to hear, the staff, you, Barb, everybody talk about these really great things that are happening and how it almost seems like the pieces are falling into place. And it's a wonderful feeling. And as a dairy farmer, it's hard really not to be excited about the future. And just as someone who loves food, because I love food, I love to fuel my body. That's been, the last couple of years of my life, I've been working really hard at, finding the proper fuel for my body, exercising, putting all the pieces together. So seeing this all fall together all at the same time, which I know it's not by chance that it's falling together. It's by a lot of hard work and dedication, but it's a really electrifying, really cool thing to be a part of. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. The dairy community and dairy foods, there's so many health and wellness benefits. That's the challenge. It's like, where do you focus? Because we could go in 100 different directions. There's just so many opportunities. But I will say the leadership team has made a commitment. Let's be disciplined. Let's stay the course. I mean, we heard this loud and clear from our farmer board to move the needle, showcase making a difference, and pick a lane. So we've done our due diligence to understand what's the audience we're going to focus on and where are the wellness benefits that we really need to lean into and showcase those. And again, we could go in 100 directions, but we're picking a few lanes, and we're going to stay the course and really make a big difference.
And I think that that's important also, is to stay where you can really cover your bases well, instead of spreading so thin that you're not 100% covering your bases and you're allowing opportunities of weakness in that. So I really love to hear that. And that makes me so excited. What are some of the other things, going on at the National Dairy Council? Anything else you want to share about what's going on before we move on to the next part of the podcast?
Yeah. One of the ways that we extend our reach and our voice is through other health professionals who have, a big following in social media or others. So we're planning an immersion with them. We're bringing about 15 of them together for a deep immersion, a couple-day immersion on the latest state of the science on these wellness territories that we're going to go big on and continue to go big on. So they'll be, an extended voice for us. So we're very excited about that. They'll also have a lot of exposure to dairy experiences in this immersion. And we always tie those in, whether it's a tour of a dairy farm or a visit to a processor or a farm to table kind of situation. It just really helps share the holistic dairy story, not only the great nutrition and opportunities there, but the responsible farming practices of farmers. And as you know, I mean, nothing changes hearts and minds faster and builds those champions quicker than talking to a dairy farmer and spending a little time with one.
I love it. I am so excited to see how things progress in this area and just see the really great leaps and bounds that we're making. And I'm very excited, like I've said, to be a part of that. So with that, I want to move on to just some fun rapid fire questions just to get to know a little bit more about you. One of my favorite parts of the podcast. Morning person or night owl?
Absolutely morning person.
Very, very
5:05 a.m. Yeah, my alarm goes off at 5:05.
See, now me being a dairy farmer, you'd think that would be the case, but I am not. If I don't have to be up, I'm not getting up until I absolutely have to. I'm terrible. But here we are, right? Let's see. Are you a beach person or a mountains person?
Beach. I love a good beach.
Lives in the mountain or grew up in the mountains and loves the beach. Sweet or savory?
Ooh, depends on the time of day.
All of it? No, that's one of those things. Like I'm always like, oh, I like both. But then if the opportunity presents itself on a sweet, I'm more apt to pass up a savory and go to the sweet. So
I'm with you
I
on
guess
that.
I'm a self-proclaimed sweets person.
Yeah, yeah.
Pizza or burgers? I know everyone always gets so bummed when I ask this. It's like, here, pick between your children. Which one would you like?
No, I'm gonna go with burger, but it's got to be a cheeseburger.
Of course, it's got it. That was not even a thought. Of course, it has cheese on it. All of it, all of the cheese. What is a burger without cheese? Not good.
Exactly.
What's your favorite music genre?
Ooh, I really like country music. That's my go-to. We're painting the outside of our house right now. My husband really likes yacht rock, so I've been listening to a lot of that also.
I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna have to
Like,
look that up.
it's like the 70s, 80s kind of genre.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, that works.
it's okay.
She's like, I tolerate it. It's fine. What's your favorite way to relax?
Ooh, I'm a runner. I love to run. I don't know if you call that relaxing, but for me, just being outside, just doing, I mean, I could be doing yard work or we spent a lot of time at a lake a couple hours from us. And, I put me on a four-wheeler on a gravel road or a paddleboard on a lake or a good book. Those would be all things that come top of mind as my favorite ways to relax.
Well, with the good book, what are you reading right now?
I just finished a couple good books, and the latest one is called The Women by Kristen Hanna.
Okay.
It's
Good.
about nurses who served in Vietnam, the Vietnam War. It was before when people came back from war, but it was before PTSD was acknowledged or even known, and some of those challenges. It's a historical fiction, so there's plenty of romance and emotional ups and downs in that too. But it was a really good grounding book. I loved it.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. I too am a historical fiction fanatic, so I'm all for it. Let's see. Most unique food you've ever eaten. I'm guessing you didn't like it based upon the look on your face.
I'm willing to try most things, and I have had the opportunity to visit a few different countries and try some different foods. I've tried octopus, I've tried kangaroo.
Hey, how is kangaroo?
Everyone says it tastes like chicken. It kind of tastes like beef, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to someday when the opportunity arises, I'm going to have to give it a shot because I too I will try everything once.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to try it again, but I will try it once.
Right.
I've had alligator before, and that does in fact taste like chicken. It was like alligator on a stick from like a beachside, like little hut kind of thing. And it did in fact taste like chicken on a stick. Maybe it was chicken and they were just saying it was. Who knows? So what is the coolest place that you've ever gotten to visit?
My first international travel was to Australia, and I presented at a conference there, and that was wonderful. I also have had the opportunity to go to Africa a couple of times.
You've been to all the cool places.
Yeah, both for work. And that was life-changing. And then last summer I had a chance to go with a couple of my very best friends from high school. We went on a girls' vacation together, and that was so special too.
And where'd you go for that one?
We went to Cayman Island.
Ooh, very cool.
It was really fun. Yeah. We stayed in a little VRBO, and we cooked our own food and spent days on the beach, and it was lovely.
Very relaxing. That would definitely be right up there with the relaxation.
Absolutely.
And so if someone said to you, plan your dream trip, here's however much money you need, where are you going?
I mean, I probably would find a beach. I'd like to go to Greece. Italy, places of the world I have not been before.
Okay. That's surprising to me that you haven't been over there yet. So we'll have to tell the husband, get on it. After I'm done listening to your music that I don't like, you can take me to Greece.
It can be a trade-off.
Perfect. I love it. And then I love to ask more of a deeper thought question. That's a question that was left from a previous guest. And your question is, what is one question that you wish more people would ask when they first meet you? I told you it was deep thought.
It's deep thought. I think it would be nice for people to ask, what interests you, or tell me about yourself other than your job. Because that's like always the first thing. You introduce yourself and you say, what you do. But I think as people, we're so much more than just the title of our job.
Yes, I do agree with that. Definitely. Or what do you do for fun or something different? Yes. Even though most farmers are unfortunately just going to be like, I farm. Not me. I do other.
There's so much more to know about you, right? Even just digging into that.
There's lots to know. Yes, I love it. And yeah, it definitely goes to show that there's more to a person than just what they do for a career. Because, you are you forever, and your career is only with you for a certain period of time. So definitely getting to know that person underneath is really important, and I like it. And Katie, what quote do you have for us today?
So I'm going to stick with the food theme, and I'm going to share one of my favorite Bible verses, which is John 6:35. Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst."
And why does that quote resonate with you?
I think it resonates with me on a human level because of the food and the connection to the importance of food sustaining and nourishing us, and also really connects on a spiritual level that, there's so much more than just our life here, and that we can live our very best life through the Spirit.
Oh, I love it. And Katie, if people want to find out more about National Dairy Council, if they want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
I'd be thrilled to be a resource for any of your listeners. And you could email me directly, katie.brown@dairy.org. You could find me on LinkedIn. Be very happy to connect there. Our website, usdairy.com, is loaded with great information from technical to recipes, this spans the whole thing. So those would be like the easiest ways to get a hold of me or to find resources.
Awesome. I love it. Anything else you want to share with the listeners?
Just, really appreciate people who spent the time to listen to our session today. And just please know we're being as innovative and effective as we can in spreading the good news about dairy foods and increasing consumption. That's really our goal. If people are really enjoying dairy foods, we just got to get them to eat a little bit more each day to meet the recommended servings, and health would improve for sure.
Awesome. I love it. Katie, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. It's been a blast getting to know you a lot more and getting to chat with you rather than just in passing. I hope that I get to see you again soon, because like I said, whenever you speak to us, I love to listen, and I love to hear the knowledge that you impart. It's just so enlightening and enriching, and just when someone listens to you speak, it's hard not to be excited about all the really great things going on in the world, in nutrition, all of the different things. So I love it. And for you listeners, if you loved this episode, if you learned something, please share with a friend, tag me on social media at DairyGalDal, leave a review. All of these little things help podcasts like mine grow and reach more people. So I would really appreciate it. And Katie, again, thank you so much for joining me today. And we will talk to you all next week. Thank you.
What a pleasure. Thank you.